This is your Q3 study guide for language arts. We're not going to write a standard for this assignment because there are many standards that we're covering for review. Make sure that your name, class, period, date are in the upper right-hand corner and that you have this title written. And what I'd like you to do on this is you're actually going to just see what I write for each number and listen to what I say. And I'd just like you to write your own example. So for number one, alliteration is the term I want to review. And an example of alliteration, something that begins, that has a lot of words that begin with the same consonant. So in this case, S. The sentence says, "My sister is sweet and sassy." So you have a lot of S's there. So this would be an example of alliteration. You're going to write an example sentence, something else, not about my sister. So for number one, you probably want to write number one, alliteration, and then instead of my sentence, you're going to write your own sentence. Okay? Moving on, number two, a metaphor. Here's an example of a metaphor. This is when you compare two things without using like or as. You just say something is something. Or you don't even have to say this is this. But in this case, it says, her hair is golden straw. So without saying like or as, you're comparing her hair with golden straw. Again, go ahead and just write number two, metaphor, and your own sentence instead. Okay, number three. Using commas to offset or clarify a noun. These are words that you may or may not have heard, but we've definitely talked about using clauses in the middle of sentences to clarify something. So the sentence says, she makes her friends, at least most of them, laugh a lot. So the clause here that I put in, at least most of them, talks about friends. Okay? And in order to put this in, I have to put commas around it. You can't just say she makes her friends, at least most of them, laugh a lot with no commas. The commas show that it offsets or that it explains friends. Okay, so again, do your own sentence. It doesn't have to be about friends. It can be something else. Number four, we've talked about this a lot because we talk about claims a lot. Claims by an author, and this is also called a personal style. So, for example, she is the most thoughtful and loving person, which means out of anybody you know, the most thoughtful and loving. But the question you want to ask yourself is, does everyone think so? If you can say, well, maybe some people don't think so, then this is probably a claim. Sort of like what we've talked about with opinions. Authors do that a lot, though. They have opinions about things, and it's called personal style. Number five, opinions from authorities. An authority or authority figure is just someone in charge, someone that has good reason to believe something, and you want to believe them because they are skilled in it or practiced in it or have a degree in it, etc., etc. So in this sentence I wrote, I know I'm good at basketball because LeBron James said I was good. I'm going to fix that there. That's an N. And you know you can trust this opinion because if LeBron James says something about basketball, you're going to trust it because he's a really good basketball player. So again, you're going to write your own there. Number six. This is called parallel structure. We've also talked about this a bunch with our editing. Example here is, over the weekend I swam, ate lots, and talked on the phone. You wouldn't say, over the weekend I swam, eating lots, and talks on the phone. That doesn't make any sense because they're not the same tense. You also could say, over the weekend I want to swim, to eat, and to talk. And that would also be considered parallel structure. It doesn't have to be a past tense or future tense or present tense, but it needs to have the same tense, the same structure. Okay? Parallel, remember, is when two things are going the same way and they never touch. Okay, so think of parallel as having the same structure. Okay, in parallel structure. Swam, past tense, ate, past tense, and talked. It all happened before. On this one, this particular one, 6, I want you to tell me what you want to do over this weekend, what you want to do. Number 7, something called a subordinate clause. We've talked lots about clauses. In this one, it says, returning my keys, I unlocked the door. If you took this out and just said, returning my keys, people would say, and? Like, yes, what else comes after that or comes before it? Because that's not a complete sentence. We do not see a verb there. If you said, I was returning my keys, or with my keys, that's different. But this is called a subordinate clause. It cannot stand on its own. It needs an independent clause with it. And lastly, idiom, one of your favorites that we've done. An idiom is something that doesn't actually mean what it says, but it's sort of like a saying that is well known that you know, and it's usually a funny saying. It's, it doesn't make any sense when you say it, but it's it's just well known from growing up. For example, an idiom: many of you had butterflies in your stomach while presenting your scene from Anne Frank. You didn't really have little butterflies flittering around in your stomach, but your stomach felt funny. And so a common idiom would be that you had butterflies in your stomach because you were nervous. So instead of saying many of you were nervous, you spice up your writing by using an idiom. So that's it. Those 8, I'd like you to put your own sentences, not mine, but make sure you have what it is right above it: idiom, subordinate clause, etc. So when you study it on Monday, you know what it is referring to. Good luck.